She was just the invisible housemaid of the mansion, until the millionaire saw her dancing at the farewell party and couldn't forget her. And what he did next surprised everyone. Before the story begins, leave a comment saying which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. Ellen Barker looked at the brown envelope in her hands and felt her stomach twist. $1,500. That's what the agency was offering for one night of work. Are you sure this is safe, Jess? Ellen asked for the 10th time on the phone while folding towels in the laundry room. Ellen, relax. It's just dancing. You pop out of the cake, move your hips for 2 minutes, take the money and leave. Pop out of a cake? Ellen's eyes widened. Like, a real cake? No, a big fake one. You're not going to be covered in whipped cream if that's what you're thinking. Jess, I graduated in business administration. I should be in an office, not jumping out of a cake at a bachelor party. Yeah, well, life tripped us up, my friend. And your mom's treatment isn't going to pay for itself with your cleaning salary. Ellen closed her eyes. Jess was right. Her mother was sick, needing expensive medicine and constant appointments. The pay from her job at the Mitchell mansion barely covered rent. I'm going to look ridiculous, Ellen said. You're going to look gorgeous, and you'll walk out with $1,500 in your pocket. Now say yes before I take the job myself. You do that for me? Of course not. I'm broke too, but it sounded supportive, didn't it? Ellen couldn't help laughing. Fine, I'll do it. Perfect. It's tomorrow night, some rich guy's bachelor party. Oh, and Ellen, shave your armpits. Jess, her friend hung up laughing. The next day, Ellen tried to focus on work, but it was impossible. Every time she passed a mirror in the Mitchell mansion, she imagined herself wearing that ridiculous short red dress the agency had sent. Andrew Mitchell crossed paths with her in the hallway that morning. He was the owner of the mansion, a wealthy and respected businessman. Always polite, always distant. Good morning, Ellen. Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. He went on his way. Ellen was invisible to him, just another employee, and she preferred it that way. When evening came, Ellen was in the dressing room of a luxurious event hall, wearing that short red dress, high heels, and a feather in her hair that made her feel like a tipsy flamingo. First time? A blonde woman asked, putting on lipstick. Is it that obvious? A little, but relax. They're just drunk guys. Tomorrow they won't even remember you. Ellen prayed that was true. The coordinator knocked on the door. Ladies, it's showtime. Ellen climbed the little ladder inside the huge fake cake and crouched on the hidden platform. It was dark and hot. Outside, she could hear loud music, laughter, and excited male voices. Her heart raced. And now, gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed. The surprise of the night. The music changed beat. The cake opened. Ellen stood up, tossed her hair back, and forced a smile as she began to dance. The men exploded in cheers and whistles. She kept the fake smile, moving to the rhythm, trying not to think about anything but the money she was earning. Then she looked at the crowd, and she saw him. Among all those unknown men, standing frozen like a statue, was Andrew Mitchell. Ellen's world stopped. His eyes were fixed on her, wide, stunned, mouth slightly open in pure shock. Ellen felt the blood drain from her veins. He was there, her boss, the man whose floors she vacuumed every morning, the man who barely knew she existed. And now he was seeing her like this, in a red dress, dancing, jumping out of a ridiculous cake. Shame exploded inside her like a bomb. But the music was still playing, and she thought of her mother. The bills, the medicine, the money she didn't have. Ellen took a deep breath and kept dancing. Andrew didn't take his eyes off her. The shock on his face turned into something she couldn't read. Confusion? Pity? Judgment? Every second felt like an eternity. When the music finally ended, Ellen climbed down from the cake as fast as she could, almost tripping in her heels. She had to get out. Now. She ran toward the dressing room, her heart pounding. Ellen, his voice froze her. Andrew was coming toward her, pushing through the other men. Ellen panicked. She turned and ran, shoving the dressing room door open and disappearing inside before he could reach her. She leaned against the door, shaking, struggling to breathe. Outside, she heard his voice again. Ellen, wait. I just want to talk. But she didn't answer. She couldn't. She couldn't face him. She stayed there, silent, until she heard his footsteps fade away. When she finally left the dressing room 20 minutes later, already wearing her regular clothes, Ellen grabbed the envelope with the money and practically ran out of the hall. She got into the first taxi she saw. Where to? The driver asked. Anywhere. she whispered. Just get me out of here. As the car pulled away, Ellen looked out the window and saw Andrew Mitchell standing at the entrance of the hall, scanning the street for her. She sank into the seat, closed her eyes, and felt tears running down her face. Tomorrow she would have to go back to the mansion. She would have to see him again. How was she going to survive that? And maybe she'd even be fired. Ellen didn't sleep. She spent the whole night staring at the ceiling of her tiny room, replaying every second of that humiliation. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Andrew Mitchell's face frozen in shock, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. At 5 a.m, she gave up trying to sleep. She got up, made her mother's coffee, and set out the medicine with trembling hands. You look pale, sweetheart, her mother said from the living room. Did you sleep badly? Just a little insomnia, Mom. Nothing serious. A lie. Everything was serious. Ellen looked at the clock. 6:15. Normally, she would catch the 6:30 bus to reach the mansion by 7. But today, her feet felt glued to the floor. Maybe she could call in sick, say she had the flu, food poisoning, anything. But then she looked at the envelope with the $1,500 sitting on the small table. She looked at her mother on the couch, fragile but smiling at her. She couldn't lose her job. Not now. She took a deep breath, grabbed her bag, and left. The bus ride felt like 5 minutes and 5 hours at the same time. Ellen got off at her usual stop, walked the 2 blocks to the Mitchell mansion, and stopped in front of the gate. Her hands were sweating. Her heart was racing. You can do this, she whispered to herself. Go in, do your job, and avoid him. Simple as that. Simple. Sure. She used her key for the staff entrance and walked in through the kitchen. The cook, Mrs. Martha, was already there preparing breakfast. Good morning, Ellen. You look like you've seen a ghost, dear. Good morning, Mrs. Martha. I'm just a little tired. Worked too much last night? Ellen almost choked. What do you mean? Well, didn't you stay late cleaning the library? I saw the light on when I left. Oh yes, that. The library. I stayed cleaning until late. Very late, Ellen said with a nervous laugh that came out more like a squeak. Mrs. Martha gave her a strange look. Are you sure you're all right? Perfectly. I'll start with the living room today. Excuse me. Ellen practically ran out of the kitchen before the woman could ask anything else. She spent the next 2 hours cleaning the living room, library, and office with the speed of someone trying to break a world record. The faster she finished, the faster she could leave. She was wiping down a shelf in the library when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Male footsteps, steady, familiar. Ellen froze, cloth still in hand, praying he would just walk past. The footsteps stopped at the library door. Ellen. She closed her eyes. Of course he wasn't going to walk past. Good morning, Mr. Mitchell, she said without turning around, pretending to be deeply focused on cleaning a perfectly spotless shelf. Can we talk? I'm a bit busy right now, sir. I need to finish the library before lunch. Ellen, please, look at me. She didn't want to. She wanted to keep her back to him for the rest of her life. But she knew she couldn't. She turned slowly, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor. About last night. I don't owe any explanations about what I do in my free time, Mr. Mitchell, Ellen interrupted, her voice steadier than she expected. And if you're thinking of firing me because of it, I understand. But I'd like to ask that you at least give me 2 weeks to find another job. There was silence. Ellen risked looking up. Andrew was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disgust. It was something softer. Concern, maybe? I'm not going to fire you, Ellen. She blinked. You're not? No, but I need to understand what happened. That didn't seem like the kind of job you'd take. And what do you know about the kind of job I'd take? The words slipped out before she could stop them. Andrew leaned back slightly, surprised by her tone. Ellen took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. No, you're right. I don't know much about you, other than the fact that you're an excellent employee, he said, running a hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. But last night, when I saw you there, I was worried. It didn't seem right. You were worried? Ellen let out a humorless laugh. How kind. Ellen, look, Mr. Mitchell. I took that job because I needed the money. Desperately. It wasn't an easy choice, and it certainly wasn't something I did for fun, she said, gripping the cloth tightly, trying to control her emotions. But I needed it, and that's all you need to know. She turned back to the shelf, signaling the conversation was over. But Andrew didn't leave. Does it have to do with your mother? Ellen froze. I heard Mrs. Martha mention once that your mother was sick. Is that why? Ellen's hands trembled. She squeezed the cloth so hard her knuckles turned white. That's none of your business, she whispered. Ellen, if you're struggling financially, we can talk about a raise, or an advance on your salary. You don't have to put yourself in. In what? She turned sharply, eyes burning. Humiliating situations? Shameful ones? I know, Mr. Mitchell. Believe me, I know exactly how humiliating it was, especially with you there, looking at me like I was. Her voice broke. The tears she had held back all night finally began to fall. Ellen covered her face with her hands, mortified, crying in front of her boss. Perfect. As if the night before hadn't been humiliating enough. Ellen, I wasn't judging you, Andrew said, his voice softer now. I was worried. You've always been so professional, so private. Seeing you in that situation was a shock. But not because I thought you'd done something wrong. It was because I realized something must be very wrong in your life for you to end up there. Ellen wiped her tears angrily, still not looking at him. I'm going to find out, Andrew said, his tone firm. I'll figure out what's going on, and I'll help you. I don't need your charity, Ellen replied, her voice breaking. It's not charity. It's the least I can do for someone who's worked for me for 2 years and is clearly fighting on her own. Ellen finally looked at him. His green eyes were serious, determined. Please don't investigate my life, she said weakly. It's humiliating enough that you saw me like that. I don't need your pity too. It's not pity, Ellen. It's... But she didn't let him finish. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and left the library, leaving Andrew Mitchell alone, staring at the empty doorway with a thoughtful expression on his face. And as Ellen climbed the stairs to clean the rooms upstairs, she had no idea that Andrew had already picked up the phone, and that in just a few hours he would know everything about her situation. Everything. 3 days passed since their conversation in the library. 3 days in which Ellen arrived earlier, worked faster, and slipped out through the back door to avoid any encounter with Andrew Mitchell. The strategy was working perfectly. Or at least, that's what she thought. On Thursday morning, Ellen was in the kitchen having coffee with Mrs. Martha when the mansion's phone rang. Mitchell residence, Mrs. Martha answered, then frowned. Of course, one moment. Ellen, it's for you. Ellen almost dropped her cup. For me? Who is it? I don't know. A man. Said he's from the medical clinic. Ellen's blood ran cold. She picked up the phone with trembling hands. Hello? Miss Barker? This is David from Centro Clinic. I'm calling to confirm that your mother's account has been fully paid. The next 6 months of treatment are also covered. Ellen's knees went weak. What do you mean, paid? There must be some mistake. There's no mistake, miss. An anonymous sponsor covered all the costs. We've already scheduled the upcoming appointments. Your mother can come by any time to pick up her new medication. But who? As I said, it's anonymous. Have a good day, Miss Barker. The call ended. Ellen stood there holding the phone, her heart pounding. Mrs. Martha watched her curiously. Everything all right, dear? I need to talk to Mr. Mitchell. Now. She dropped the phone and marched straight to his office. She knocked on the door harder than she meant to. Come in, his calm voice said from inside. Ellen opened the door and found Andrew sitting behind his desk, typing on his computer as if nothing had happened. You paid my mother's medical bills. It wasn't a question. Andrew didn't even look up from the screen. Good morning to you too, Ellen. Mr. Mitchell, I told you I didn't want charity. And I heard you, but I decided to do it anyway. He finally looked up at her, completely composed. You can fire me if you want. Ellen blinked. Fire you? I can't fire you. You're the boss. True, so I guess you'll have to accept it. I won't accept it. I'll pay back every cent. Great. At your current salary, that should take about... He paused dramatically, pretending to calculate. 8 years, maybe 9. Ellen opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. Andrew leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Ellen, have a seat, please. I'd rather stand. That way I can yell better. Then yell sitting down. It's more comfortable. Despite everything, Ellen felt a smile threaten to appear. She held it back. She wasn't going to let him win with charm. She sat in the chair across from his desk, but kept her posture stiff. Why did you do it? She asked, her voice calmer now. Because you've worked for me for 2 years, and I didn't even know your mother was sick. I didn't know you had a degree in business administration and that you were here cleaning floors because you needed the money. Andrew said, leaning forward. You know what that says about me as an employer? That I'm terrible. completely out of touch with the people who work in my own house. You're not terrible. You're just busy. Busy being selfish, he sighed. Ellen, when I saw you at that party, dancing, the first thing I felt wasn't judgment. It was guilt. Because if one of my employees is that desperate, willing to take a job like that, it means I'm not paying enough. Or I'm not paying enough attention. Ellen didn't know what to say. No one had ever taken responsibility for her like that before. Besides, Andrew continued, a small smile forming, I found out you have a degree in business. With excellent grades, by the way. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed a job. Any job. And you were hiring a housekeeper, not an administrator. Well, now I'm hiring an administrator, he said simply. I want to promote you to administrative assistant. You'll work directly with me, handle my schedule, organize documents, help with meetings. The salary is 3 times what you make now. Ellen felt the room spin. What? Unless you'd rather keep mopping floors, no judgment. I can't accept that. Why not? Because it's charity. It's not charity if you work for it, and you will work hard, Ellen. I'm a demanding boss. But, no buts. You start Monday. I'll ask Mrs. Martha to show you your new office. It's right next to mine. Ellen opened her mouth to argue again, but then she thought about her mother, about the paid bills, about not having to worry about money for a while, about finally being able to use her degree. All right, she whispered. I accept. Andrew smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his entire face. Good. Now get out of my office. I have work to do. Ellen stood up, still a bit dizzy. She was almost at the door when she turned around. Mr. Mitchell? Huh? Thank you. You're welcome, Ellen. She left, closing the door behind her. Leaning against the hallway wall, she took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had just happened. Mrs. Martha appeared at the end of the hallway, smiling. So, he told you? You knew? Dear, everyone here knows. Mr. Mace Mitchell spent the last 3 days digging into your life like a private detective. Called the clinic, your old college, even got your academic record. Ellen blushed. That's an invasion of privacy. It is. But it's also kind of romantic. Mrs. Martha winked. Romantic? You've lost your mind. He just feels sorry for me. Sweetheart, I've worked in this house for 15 years. I've seen Mr. Mitchell with many women. And never, in all these years, have I seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. You're seeing things. I'm seeing you turning red, Mrs. Martha laughed. But fine, keep denying it. It'll be fun to watch. The cook walked away, leaving Ellen alone in the hallway, her face burning and her heart racing for reasons she didn't want to admit. Andrew Mitchell had paid her mother's bills. He had promoted her. He had investigated her entire life just to help her. And she didn't know if she wanted to kiss him or kill him for it. Maybe both. She sighed and headed back to the kitchen, trying to ignore the silly smile that insisted on showing up on her face. Monday. She would be Andrew Mitchell's administrative assistant. What could possibly go wrong? On Monday morning, Ellen woke up 2 hours early. She spent 40 minutes picking an outfit that looked professional without looking like she was trying too hard. She changed blouses 5 times until her mother yelled from the living room, Ellen Marie Barker, if you don't leave this house right now, you're going to be late. She grabbed the first blouse she saw and rushed out the door. The ride to the Mitchell mansion felt shorter than ever, or maybe it was just her nerves making time speed up. This time, Ellen entered through the front door, not the kitchen. It felt strange doing that. Mrs. Martha was in the hall, smiling like she knew some secret. Good morning, Miss Administrative Assistant. Please don't call me that. I'm nervous enough already. Mr. Mitchell is waiting for you in his office. Want some coffee first? I'd like 3, but I'll take just 1. Ellen climbed the stairs with the cup of coffee in her hands, taking a deep breath with each step. She knocked on the office door. Come in. Andrew was sitting at his desk, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than Ellen's monthly rent. He looked up and smiled. Punctual. I like that. I used to get here at 7 in the morning to clean. Old habits. Well, you won't be cleaning anymore, except for the mess I make with paperwork, he said, standing up. Come on, I'll show you your office. Ellen followed him into the next room. It was small but had a window overlooking the garden, a polished wooden desk, a new computer, and a chair that looked absurdly comfortable. This is it? She asked, still not believing it. This is it. Do you like it? Andrew, Mr. Mitchell, this is amazing. You can call me Andrew when we're working. Mr. Mitchell makes me feel like I'm 70. Okay, Andrew. The name felt strange on her tongue, too personal. He smiled as if he knew exactly what she was thinking. So let me explain your duties. Basically, you're going to organize my life, because I'm terrible at it. Meeting schedules, important calls, documents that need signing. You'll also accompany me to some events. Events? Business dinners, a few social gatherings. Nothing major. Ellen swallowed hard. Social events meant fancy dresses she didn't own. It meant talking to rich people who would instantly know she didn't belong in their world. I don't know if I'm the right person for that. You're exactly the right person. Trust me. Before Ellen could respond, Andrew's phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. I need to take this. It's my parents. Feel free to look around your new office. If you need anything, just call me. He left, closing the door behind him. Ellen sat in her new chair, ran her hand over the desk, still trying to believe this was real. She turned on the computer and spent the next few minutes going through the files Andrew had left for her to review. She was so focused that she didn't hear someone enter Andrew's office, but she did hear the woman's voice. Loud, sharp, angry. Andrew, your father is furious with you. Ellen froze. Brittany, this isn't a good time. Andrew's voice sounded tense. Brittany, the fiancée. Ellen had completely forgotten that Andrew Mitchell was engaged. How had she forgotten that? Not a good time? You canceled dinner last night without even telling me. My father was there, Andrew. We waited for you. I sent a message saying something came up. Something came up? What could possibly be more important than dinner with my father? Ellen knew she shouldn't listen. She should get up, close the door, pretend she wasn't hearing a thing. But her feet felt glued to the floor. Brittany, please, can we talk about this later? Later? You've been avoiding me for weeks. You barely answer my calls. You cancel our plans. What's going on? There was a pause. I've just been busy with work. Work? Or is it that new employee everyone's talking about? Ellen's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Don't play dumb, Andrew. My friend Karen saw you hiring a new assistant, a former housekeeper. Everyone's talking about how strange it is that you suddenly promoted someone like that. Ellen is extremely qualified. She has a degree in business administration. Ellen? Brittany's voice went higher. You call her by her first name? Brittany, you're being ridiculous. Ridiculous, ridiculous. You're replacing me with a maid. No one is replacing anyone. And stop calling her a maid like that. Your tone is offensive. Ellen felt her face burn. She wanted to disappear, melt, vanish. Offensive? You want to talk about offensive? Brittany practically shouted. I'll show you what's offensive. Ellen heard furious footsteps coming toward her office door. Before she could react, the door burst open. A tall blonde woman wearing an expensive beige dress and shoes that probably cost more than Ellen's car stormed in like a hurricane. Brittany Stevens, the fiancée, and she looked at Ellen as if she wanted to set her on fire with her eyes. So you're the famous Ellen, she said, her tone dripping with venom. Ellen jumped to her feet, dropping the pen she was holding. Hi. Brittany, right? Miss Stevens to you. Andrew appeared behind her, clearly annoyed. Brittany, this is unnecessary. Unnecessary? I just came to meet your new assistant, she said the last word like it was an insult. I want to make sure she knows her place. Ellen felt anger start to boil inside her. She had spent years being invisible, treated like she didn't matter. She wasn't about to let that woman do the same. My place, Ellen said, her voice surprisingly steady, is in this office, working. If you'll excuse me, I have documents to organize. Brittany blinked, clearly not expecting a response. Andrew held back a laugh. Ellen saw the corner of his mouth twitch. She just dismissed you, Brittany. I think we should go. Brittany opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She looked like a fish out of water. Finally, she turned and stormed off. Andrew stopped at the door, looking at Ellen with an amused sparkle in his eyes. Welcome to the job, Ellen. And he left, leaving her alone, shaking, unsure if she wanted to laugh or cry. Her first day as an administrative assistant. And she had already made an enemy. A rich, powerful enemy who happened to be her boss's fiancé. Perfect. After Andrew and Brittany left, Ellen stood in the middle of the office, staring at the closed door as if she could still see the blonde hurricane that had just blown through. Well, that was intense, she muttered to herself, sinking into her chair on wobbly legs. She tried to focus on the documents on her computer screen, but the words seemed to dance. All she could think about was the look of pure hatred on Brittany's face. Half an hour later, Andrew came back. Alone, he knocked on Ellen's door before entering. May I? It's your house. Ellen said without looking up from the screen. He stepped inside and closed the door. I'm sorry about that. Brittany was out of line. Was she? I barely noticed, Ellen said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Andrew let out a short laugh. You were amazing, you know that? Her face when you dismissed her was priceless. Great. Now she hates me even more. She doesn't hate you. Ellen finally looked at him. Andrew, she looked at me like she wanted to throw me out the window. Okay. Maybe she hates you a little, he admitted, running a hand through his hair. Brittany is complicated, but she'll get used to you. I'm sure she will. Soon we'll be braiding each other's hair and trading cake recipes. Andrew laughed for real this time. You're funny when you're nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm terrified. That's different. He sat on the edge of her desk, which made Ellen realize just how close they were. Too close to call it professional. Ellen, seriously, don't let Brittany intimidate you. She barks a lot but doesn't bite. I'm sure the people on the Titanic thought the same thing about the iceberg. Andrew opened his mouth to reply, but his phone rang. He looked at the screen and sighed. It's my mother, again. I have to take this. Go ahead. I'll stay here organizing files and praying I don't get fired by the end of the day. You're not getting fired, he said, already heading out. I promise. Ellen was alone again, trying to focus on work. She spent the rest of the morning organizing Andrew's schedule, answering emails, and learning the company's filing system. At 11:30, Mrs. Martha appeared at the door with a tray. I brought your lunch, dear. I figured you wouldn't want to go downstairs with everyone on your first day. You're an angel, Ellen said, taking the plate. How did you know? 15 years working here have made me practically psychic, Mrs. Martha winked. And I saw Miss Stevens leaving earlier. Her face was as red as a tomato. She didn't like me very much, sweetheart. She doesn't like anyone who's younger, prettier, or breathes near Andrew, the cook said in a lower tone. Between us, I never understood what he sees in her. Mrs. Martha, that's gossip. It's not gossip if it's true, she smiled. Enjoy your lunch, dear. And relax. You're doing great. She left, leaving Ellen with a plate of delicious food and a mind full of confused thoughts about Andrew and Brittany. The next day, Ellen arrived on time and found an envelope on her desk. She opened it and saw a corporate credit card with her name on it. She knocked on Andrew's door. What's this? He looked up from his papers. A credit card. You'll need it for business expenses. Andrew, this is too much. Ellen, you're going to be joining me at events. You need appropriate clothes. Use the card. I can't spend your money on clothes. It's not my money. It's company money, and technically you're buying work uniforms. Evening gowns aren't uniforms. They are if I say they are, he smiled. Now stop arguing and accept it, or I'll start thinking you enjoy disagreeing with me. Ellen opened her mouth to protest, but the amused look on his face made her stop. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Giving you orders you can't refuse? Maybe a little, he admitted, his eyes gleaming. You're impossible. And you're stubborn. I think we're going to get along just fine. Ellen rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the smile forming. She went back to her office, shaking her head. The next few days went by at a frantic pace. Ellen quickly learned Andrew's preferences, his schedule, his habits. She found out he liked his coffee extra strong in the morning, hated meetings before 9, and had the terrible habit of forgetting to eat when he was focused. She also discovered he worked late almost every night and rarely took a day off. On Friday night, Ellen was still at the office at 8, reviewing documents for an important Monday meeting. Andrew appeared at the door. You're still here? So are you. I don't have a social life. What's your excuse? I'm trying to impress my demanding boss. You already did, he said, walking closer. Go home, Ellen. It's Friday night. Just 30 more minutes. I want to finish this. Andrew sighed and sat down in the chair across from her desk. Then I'll wait. I'm not letting you take the bus alone at this hour. Andrew, you don't have to. I know. But I'm going to anyway. Ellen looked at him, sitting there with his shirt sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, eyes tired but still sharp, and she felt something tighten in her chest. Something dangerous, something she shouldn't be feeling for her engaged boss. She quickly turned back to the computer. Fine, but don't complain if I take too long. I won't complain. They worked in comfortable silence until Ellen finally turned off her computer. Done. We can go. Andrew drove her home in his car. The conversation was light, natural, full of laughter. When they stopped in front of her building, she hesitated before getting out. Andrew? Huh? Thank you for everything, for the promotion, for paying my mom's bills, for seeing me. He smiled. You're welcome, Ellen, and thank you for taking the job. You're making a difference. She got out of the car, her heart racing, and went upstairs to the apartment. Her mother was still awake, waiting. So, how was your week? It was intense, Ellen admitted, collapsing onto the couch. And this boss of yours? Is he handsome? Mom, what? It's a valid question. Ellen laughed, covering her face with her hands. Yes, he's handsome, and he's engaged. Oh, her mother paused. That complicates things. It really does. Because Ellen knew, even if she didn't want to admit it, she was starting to feel something for Andrew Mitchell. And that was a problem. A huge problem. The following Monday, Andrew walked into Ellen's office wearing a smile she was already learning to recognize as, I'm about to tell you something you won't like. No, she said before he could open his mouth. You don't even know what I'm going to say. Yes, I do. That smile means trouble. Andrew laughed. Am I that predictable? Like a Swiss watch. So what's the bad news? It's not bad news, it's an opportunity. That's even worse. He sat in the chair across from her desk. There's a business dinner on Thursday, important investors, and I need you to come with me. Ellen felt her stomach twist. Andrew, I don't know anything about investors. I'll end up saying something stupid and ruin everything. You won't ruin anything. You just have to be there, take some notes, and look professional, which you already do very well. Looking professional while cleaning is different from looking professional at a dinner with rich people. Ellen, you have a degree in business. You probably understand more about management than half the people who'll be there. And the other half will know I'm a fraud. Imposter syndrome is normal, Andrew said gently, but you deserve to be in that room just as much as anyone else. Ellen bit her lip. And Brittany? Will she be there? She will. But you'll be working. This isn't about her. Easy for him to say. Fine, Ellen sighed. I'll need a dress. Use the corporate card. Buy something nice. Nice has a wide definition. For me, nice is something under $50. Ellen, for heaven's sake, spend the money. You're representing the company. This company has very high standards of representation, and you'll meet every one of them, he said, standing up. Thursday, 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up. After he left, Ellen called Jess. I need help, urgently. Finally admitting you're in love with your boss? What? No, I need to buy a dress for a business dinner. Oh, Jess sounded disappointed. That's way less exciting, but fine, I'll help. When? Tomorrow after work? Deal. And Ellen, buy something red. Men love red. Jess, it's a business dinner. So what? Business and seduction have gone hand in hand since forever. You're impossible, and you're in denial. See you tomorrow. The next day, Ellen left work early and met Jess at the entrance of the mall. Her friend dragged her through 5 different stores before they finally found the perfect dress. It was dark green, elegant, with a cut that flattered her figure without being too much. Ellen looked at the price tag and nearly fainted. $400? For one dress? It's an investment, Jess argued, and you have the corporate card. Use it. But, no buts, you deserve it. Now go try it on before I have to push you into the fitting room. The dress fit perfectly. Ellen barely recognized her reflection in the mirror. Wow, Jess whispered. Your boss is going to swallow his tongue when he sees you. Jess, I'm just telling the truth. Buy it before I change my mind and grab it for myself. Ellen bought the dress, the matching shoes, and went home with her stomach in knots. On Thursday, she spent the entire day trying and failing to focus on work. At 5 o'clock, Andrew appeared at her door. Go home and get ready. I'll pick you up at 7. Ellen nodded, too nervous to speak. When she got home, her mother was excited. Let me help you get ready. Mom, you should be resting. Nonsense. My daughter's going to a fancy dinner. I'm helping. Her mother did her makeup, styled her hair, and when Ellen finally looked in the mirror, she could hardly believe it. Mom, I look beautiful. You've always been beautiful, dear. You're just letting people see it now. Right at 7, the doorbell rang. Ellen opened the door and found Andrew standing there in a black suit, looking far too handsome to be legal. And the way he looked at her made her heart skip a beat. Ellen, his voice came out low. You look stunning. Thank you. You look presentable. He laughed. Presentable. I'll take that as a compliment. In the car, the tension was palpable. Andrew drove in silence, occasionally glancing at her from the corner of his eye. Nervous, he finally asked. Terrified, but I'm pretending to be confident. It's working. You look completely calm. Great. Then my Oscar for Best Actress is secure. He laughed, and the tension eased a little. They arrived at the restaurant, an incredibly fancy place where Ellen was sure one dish cost more than her electricity bill. Andrew offered his arm, and they walked in together. The private dining room was full of elegant people, chatting and laughing, glasses of wine in hand. Ellen recognized a few faces from business magazines, and then she saw Brittany. Andrew's fiancée was across the room, wearing a white dress that probably cost more than Ellen's car. When she saw Ellen enter on Andrew's arm, her face twisted with fury. "She's going to kill me," Ellen whispered. "Probably," Andrew agreed. "But you'll survive. You're tougher than you think." "I hope you're right." "I always am. Your ego doesn't fit in this room." "Well, then it'll have to wait outside." Ellen laughed, and a few guests turned to look their way. Andrew smiled, clearly pleased that he'd made her laugh. Brittany approached like a guided missile, her fake smile perfectly in place. "Andrew, darling, I didn't know you were bringing your secretary." "Administrative assistant," Andrew corrected, his tone icy. "And she's here for work." "Of course." Brittany looked Ellen up and down. "Nice dress. Outlet?" Ellen felt her blood boil, but forced a polite smile. "Actually, it was from a very expensive store." "Your fiancé insisted." Brittany's expression soured even more. Andrew held back a laugh and guided Ellen away before things could escalate. "You're brave," he murmured near her ear. "Or very stupid. I haven't decided yet." The dinner began, and Ellen realized Andrew had been right. She understood more than she thought. She joined the conversations, took notes, and even impressed a few investors with her insights. Brittany watched them from across the table, eyes like a snake ready to strike, and Ellen had the feeling things were about to get worse. Much worse. The evening went better than Ellen expected. She managed to keep up with the business talk, took important notes, and even received compliments from 2 investors about her observations. Andrew looked at her with unmistakable pride, which made her heart spin in dangerous ways. When the dinner finally ended and guests began to say their goodbyes, Ellen let out a sigh of relief. She had survived. "I'm just going to the restroom," she told Andrew. "I'll be right back." He nodded, busy talking with one of the main investors. Ellen walked down the elegant hallway toward the ladies' room. She was retouching her lipstick when the door suddenly burst open. Brittany stormed in like a hurricane. "We need to talk," she said, crossing her arms. Ellen calmly put the lipstick back in her purse, forcing herself to stay composed. "About what exactly?" "About you staying away from my fiancé. I work for him. Kind of hard to stay away." "Don't play dumb." Brittany stepped closer. "Everyone can see the way he looks at you. The way you look at him." Ellen felt her face heat up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You're trying to steal my fiancé." "I'm not trying to steal anyone." Ellen turned to face her. "I work for Andrew, that's all." "Oh, really? Then why did he pay your bills? Why did he promote you out of nowhere? Why does he take you to important dinners?" "Because I'm good at my job." "You're a former housekeeper." Brittany spat. "The only thing you know how to clean is dirt. And clearly you don't mind being the dirt in other people's lives." Ellen felt anger explode inside her. "You know what's funny? You have everything. Money, beauty, a rich fiancé, and yet here you are, afraid of a former housekeeper. That says a lot about you. And about your relationship." Brittany's face turned red. "You don't know anything about my relationship." "I know enough. I know Andrew doesn't look happy when he's with you. I know you're constantly fighting. And I know that if your relationship were really as strong as you say, you wouldn't be here threatening me." "I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you." Brittany stepped even closer, her eyes blazing. "Stay away from him, or you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning." The bathroom door opened and an elegant older woman walked in. Brittany instantly changed her expression, plastering on a fake smile. "Well, it was nice talking to you, Ellen," she said sweetly and loudly. "See you at the office." And she left, leaving Ellen trembling with anger and nerves. When she returned to the dining room, Andrew was waiting. "Everything okay?" "You took a while." "Just fixing my makeup," she lied. He studied her for a moment, as if he knew something more had happened, but didn't press. On the drive home, the car was silent. Ellen stared out the window, still replaying her conversation with Brittany. "You were amazing tonight," Andrew said suddenly. "The investors loved you." "Thank you. I tried not to make a fool of myself." "Ellen, you could never make a fool of yourself. You're smart, capable, and impressive." She looked at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. "Andrew." "I know," he interrupted, his hands tightening on the wheel. I know I shouldn't say these things. I know I'm engaged. I know you work for me, but I need you to know how much I admire you. Ellen's heart pounded. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because you're engaged. Because it's wrong. Wrong? Andrew gave a humorless laugh. You know what's wrong? Being engaged to someone and not being able to stop thinking about another person. That's wrong. Ellen couldn't breathe. Andrew, stop. I can't. I've tried. I swear I've tried, he said, stopping the car in front of her building. But since that night at the party, since I saw you dancing, vulnerable and brave at the same time, I can't get you out of my head. You're just confused, Ellen whispered. It's guilt. You feel guilty that I had to do that. It's not just guilt. It's more than that. He turned to look at her. It's the way you challenge me. The way you make me laugh. The way you're real with me when everyone else only tells me what they think I want to hear. Andrew, you're getting married. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. And I hate it. I hate that I made that decision before really knowing you, before realizing that. Don't finish that sentence, Ellen pleaded, her voice trembling. Please. He was silent for a long moment. Do you feel something for me? He finally asked, his voice quiet. Be honest. Ellen closed her eyes. She could lie. She should lie. It was the right thing to do. But when she opened her eyes and saw Andrew looking at her with that vulnerable expression, she couldn't. Yes, she whispered. I do, but it doesn't matter. You're getting married, and I work for you. This can't happen. What if I called off the wedding? You won't. How do you know? Because Brittany is from your world. She understands your life, your responsibilities. You're everything she's not, Andrew interrupted. You're genuine. You're strong. You're real. Andrew, stop. Tears filled Ellen's eyes. You're hurting me. He pulled back as if he'd been slapped. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I know. Ellen opened the car door. Thank you for dinner. It was enlightening. Ellen, wait. But she was already gone, running up the stairs without looking back. When she got home, her mother was asleep. Ellen went straight to her room, took off the green dress, and collapsed onto the bed. She cried for everything she couldn't have. For Andrew. For that impossible confession. For knowing she was in love with a man who belonged to someone else. The next day, she arrived at work earlier than usual. She wanted to avoid Andrew as much as possible. But at 9 o'clock, he knocked on her office door. Can we talk? I'm busy. Ellen, please. About yesterday. She didn't let him in. Let's forget it. It was a moment of weakness. We were tired. It happens. It wasn't a moment of weakness, he said firmly. It was real. And you know that. Andrew, you're getting married in less than 2 months to Brittany, the woman you chose. I chose before I met you. But you chose, Ellen said, meeting his eyes. And you need to honor that choice. At least one of us has to do the right thing. And clearly, it'll have to be me. She shut the door in his face before he could see her tears falling again. On the other side, Andrew stood there, forehead resting against the door, knowing Ellen was right, but wishing desperately that she wasn't. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of Ellen's life. She and Andrew kept a painfully professional distance. No personal talk, no lingering looks, just work. It was torture. Mrs. Martha noticed the tension. Did you two have a fight? She asked one morning. No, Ellen lied, stirring her coffee harder than necessary. Everything's fine. Of course it is. That's why you look ready to explode every time he walks into the room. Mrs. Martha, I really don't want to talk about it. The cook sighed. All right, dear. But if you ever need to vent, I'm here. Ellen thanked her and went back to the office, trying to focus on the financial reports she had to review. She was so focused that she didn't even notice when Andrew walked in. Ellen, I need you to organize the documents for tomorrow night's dinner, he said, his voice formal and distant. Of course. Leave them on my desk. Brittany will be there. Ellen looked up. I figured. She's been insisting on attending more company events. Thinks that as my future wife, she should be more involved. Makes sense, Ellen said, turning back to her computer. Andrew stood there for a moment longer, as if he wanted to say something, but he simply left the documents on her desk and walked out. Ellen waited until she was sure he was gone before putting her head in her hands and taking a deep breath. This was tearing her apart inside. The next afternoon, Ellen was filing some documents in Andrew's office when she heard voices in the hallway. She immediately recognized Brittany's sharp voice. And there was a man with her. I'm sure he's not here, Brittany said anxiously. He said he had meetings out all day. Good. Then we have time to go over the plan. The man replied. Ellen froze. Something in his tone made her tense. Diego, I don't know if I can go through with this, Brittany said, her voice lower now. They had entered Andrew's office. Ellen was stuck in the small storage room next to it, the door slightly open. If she came out now, they'd see her. Of course you can, the man, Diego said. It's exactly what we did with Thomas, remember? You marry him, get power of attorney, transfer part of the fortune, and then file for divorce. Simple. Ellen's blood ran cold. But Andrew isn't Thomas, Brittany argued. He's smarter, and he's suspicious, especially after that stupid assistant showed up. Ellen held her breath. The housekeeper? Diego laughed. Please, she's irrelevant. You'll be Mrs. Mitchell in 3 weeks. Everything's already planned. The ceremony, the prenup, you're going to convince him not to sign. And if he insists on the prenup? Then you cry, make a scene, say it's about trust. It always works. And after that? Then you get power of attorney as his wife, transfer $5 million to the offshore account, wait 6 months, and file for divorce claiming incompatibility. We split the money 50-50. Ellen felt sick. She was listening to a scam being planned, a scam against Andrew. But what if he suspects something? Brittany sounded nervous. What if he finds out? He won't. You're good at this, Britt. You've done it before, and it worked perfectly. Thomas was different. He was stupid. Andrew is rich, Diego cut her off. Very rich, and you're going to walk away with half of it. So stop worrying and focus on the wedding. 3 weeks. That's all you have to get through. There was a pause. And what about Ellen? She could be a problem. Then get rid of her, 'cause trouble for her at work. Make Andrew fire her, or better yet, dig up some dirt on her. Everyone has secrets. Ellen heard footsteps coming closer to the storage room. Panic hit her as she looked around for somewhere to hide, but it was too late. The door swung open. Diego was standing there. Tall, dark-haired, with cold eyes that studied her for a long moment. Well, he said slowly. Looks like we have a listener. Brittany appeared behind him, her face going pale when she saw Ellen. How much did you hear? Diego asked, stepping closer. Ellen tried to look calm. I just came to grab some files. I didn't hear anything. Liar, Brittany hissed. You were in there the whole time. I swear, I didn't hear anything important. Just you talking about the wedding. Diego took another step toward her. You know what I think? I think you heard everything, and that's a problem. I'm not going to tell anyone, Ellen said, trying to walk past them, but Diego blocked her way. Of course you're not, he smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because if you do, we'll destroy you. We'll tell everyone about your past, about that party, about you dancing half-dressed for drunk men. Ellen felt the floor drop beneath her. How do you? I look into the people around Brittany, Diego said simply. It's amazing what you can find with a simple search. There are even photos, of you in that little red dress. It would be a shame if those pictures got out. You can't do that, Ellen whispered. I can and I will if you open your mouth. He leaned in closer. So here's the deal. You didn't see anything. You didn't hear anything. You don't know anything. And we'll leave your embarrassing little past alone. Got it? Ellen looked at Brittany, hoping for some trace of decency, but the woman only stared back with contempt. Got it? Diego repeated, his voice sharper. Got it, Ellen whispered. Good girl, he said, stepping back. Now get out of here before I change my mind. Ellen practically ran out of the office, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. She locked herself in the bathroom and sat on the floor, trying to breathe. Andrew was being deceived. He was about to marry a con artist who had done this before, who planned to steal from him and disappear. And she couldn't tell him. If she did, Diego would leak those photos. Her mother would see them. Everyone would see them. She would be publicly humiliated. But if she didn't, Andrew would lose millions, maybe more, and he'd marry a liar. Ellen buried her face in her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. What was she supposed to do? She stayed there for almost an hour, trying to think of a solution. When she finally left, she'd made up her mind. She grabbed her bag and left early, making up an excuse about not feeling well. At home, she told her mother everything. Oh my God, Ellen. Her mother went pale. You have to tell him. I can't. If I do, they'll leak those photos. You'll see. Everyone will see. Sweetheart, that doesn't matter. It does, Ellen snapped. Haven't you been embarrassed enough because of me? Wasn't it humiliating enough that I had to do that to pay the bills? Her mother went quiet, tears filling her eyes. I'm sorry, Mom, Ellen whispered. I didn't mean that. You're right, her mother said softly. You did that for me, and now you're paying the price. It's not your fault, it's mine. I made that choice. And now you need to make another one. The right one, her mother said, taking her hands. Ellen, that man paid your bills, gave you a better job, treated you with respect. You can't let him be robbed. But the photos? To hell with the photos, her mother said firmly. You didn't do anything wrong at that party. You were working, earning an honest living. If people want to judge, let them. But you know the truth, and I know it, and Andrew knows it. Ellen wiped her tears. You're right. I always am, her mother smiled. Now go save that man from making the biggest mistake of his life. The next morning, Ellen arrived at work with iron determination. She needed proof. She couldn't just tell Andrew what she'd heard. He wouldn't believe her without evidence. So she was going to get it, one way or another. Ellen had spent the entire night planning. If she needed proof, she had to be smart, smarter than she'd ever been in her life. Which wasn't very comforting, considering her biggest accomplishment so far included graduating in business administration and climbing out of a cake without falling on her face. The next morning, she showed up to work with her phone fully charged and a plan that sounded like something out of a bad spy movie. Mrs. Martha was in the kitchen as always. Good morning, dear. You look determined today. I am. Very determined, Ellen said, grabbing a cup of coffee. Mrs. Martha, can I ask you a weird question? The weirder, the better. If you wanted to record a conversation without someone knowing, how would you do it? Mrs. Martha raised an eyebrow. Are we planning blackmail now? No, it's just that, Ellen hesitated. Let's say I need proof that's planning to do something bad, really bad, and the only way to get it is to record them talking. The cook studied Ellen for a long moment. Does this have to do with Miss Stevens? Maybe. Well, in that case, use your phone's recorder. Leave it running in your pocket. But, dear, are you sure you want to get involved in this? It could be dangerous. I'm already involved. Now I just need to finish it. Martha sighed. You're brave, or crazy. Haven't decided which yet. Probably both. Ellen spent the morning trying to figure out when Brittany would be back at the mansion. She didn't have to wait long. At 10 o'clock, she heard her shrill voice in the hallway. Andrew? Andrew, where are you? Ellen quietly stepped out of the office and saw Brittany going up the stairs, her phone pressed to her ear. Diego, he's not here, she said. No, I already checked. He must be in a meeting. Ellen's heart sped up. This was her chance. She followed Brittany up the stairs, keeping her distance. The woman went into Andrew's bedroom, still talking on the phone. Ellen turned on her phone's recorder and moved closer to the slightly open door. Yes, everything's ready for the wedding, Brittany said. 3 weeks, and I'll be Mrs. Mitchell. Ridiculous, isn't it? Pretending I care about that idiot. Ellen felt anger burn in her chest, but kept recording. Relax, Diego. I know what I'm doing. I've already convinced him not to sign the prenup. I told him it was about trusting our love, she laughed. He bought it completely. Rich men are so predictable. Pause. Yes, the power of attorney papers are ready. His lawyer prepared them. As soon as we're married, I'll have access to everything. $5 million is what we can transfer without raising suspicion right away. Maybe more if we're clever. Ellen kept recording, her heartbeat so loud she was sure Brittany could hear it. And that annoying assistant? Don't worry. If she opens her mouth, we'll destroy her. I already have the photos ready. It'll be easy to ruin her reputation. That was when Ellen stepped on a squeaky floorboard. The sound echoed down the hallway. Brittany stopped talking. Wait, she said into the phone. Someone's here. Ellen panicked. She quickly stopped the recorder and looked around desperately for a place to hide. The bedroom door opened wide. Brittany stepped out, looking down the hall. Is someone there? Ellen had squeezed herself behind a huge decorative plant at the end of the hallway. Not the best hiding spot, but it was all she had. She held her breath as Brittany looked both ways. I must be getting paranoid, Brittany muttered, going back into the room and closing the door. Ellen waited 2 more minutes before coming out from behind the plant, her legs shaking. She had done it. She had the recording. She hurried down the stairs and nearly ran into Andrew in the hall. Ellen, why are you running? I was exercising, she panted. You know, cardio, very important. Andrew looked at her like she'd lost her mind. In the middle of the workday? On the stairs? Efficiency. Work and exercise at the same time. You're acting strange today. Today, I'm strange every day. It's part of my charm. She tried to walk past him, but Andrew gently grabbed her arm. Ellen, Are you okay? You seem nervous? I'm great, perfectly calm and normal, she said way too fast, her voice too high. Are you sure? Totally, absolutely, 100%. She pulled away. Now I have to go. I've got documents. Lots of documents to document. She ran off before he could ask more questions. In her office, she locked the door and played the recording. It was perfect. Clear. Damning. Everything was there. The confession about the scam, the power of attorney, the $5 million. But now came the hard part. When should she show it to Andrew? The wedding was in 3 weeks. If she waited too long, it might be too late. But if she showed it too soon, Brittany and Diego could find a way to deny everything. Ellen was so deep in thought she didn't hear the knock at the door. Ellen? Andrew's voice. Can I come in? She quickly saved the recording in 3 different folders on her phone. Just a second. She opened the door. Andrew came in, looking serious. I need to talk to you. It's important. Ellen's stomach dropped. About what? About Brittany. And about us. There is no us, Ellen said quickly. I know, and that's exactly what I need to talk about. He closed the door. Ellen, I've made a decision. Andrew, don't. I'm calling off the wedding. The world stopped. What? I can't marry her. It wouldn't be fair to anyone. Not to her, not to me, and especially not to you, he said, stepping closer. I know I said you were right that I should honor my choice, but I was wrong. The right choice is to be honest about how I feel. Andrew, you can't just call off a wedding 3 weeks before it happens because of me. It's not just because of you, it's because of me too. I realized I've been using this wedding as an excuse, a way to keep people at a distance, to avoid really getting close to anyone. That's crazy, Ellen whispered, though her heart was racing. It's the first same thing I've done in years, he said, taking her hands. Ellen, The door burst open. Brittany was standing there, her face red with anger, eyes locked on their joined hands. So it's true, she said, her voice trembling. You're leaving me for her. Andrew quickly let go of Ellen's hands. Brittany, it's not. Don't lie to me, she screamed. I knew it. I knew from the start she was trying to steal you from me. No one's stealing anyone, Ellen said, finding her voice. And technically, it's not stealing if the person doesn't want to stay. Brittany glared at her with pure hatred. You ruined everything. It was all perfect until you showed up. Perfect? Ellen gave a humorless laugh. Really? Shut up. Brittany, stop, Andrew said firmly. This isn't Ellen's fault. It's mine. I realized I can't marry you. It wouldn't be fair. Wouldn't be fair? Brittany was almost hysterical now. 3 weeks before the wedding, with everything ready, invitations sent? I know, and I'm sorry, but you'll regret this, she shouted, pointing at Ellen. You both will regret it. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture on the wall rattled. Ellen and Andrew stood in silence for a long moment. Well, Ellen said finally, that was dramatic. Ellen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to get caught up in this. Too late, she said, but she was smiling. Andrew, are you sure? Because if you're doing this for me, I'm doing it for both of us, he said, gently holding her face. I can't pretend I don't feel what I feel anymore. And before Ellen could protest, he kissed her. It was a soft, tentative kiss, but it carried all the tension that had been building between them for weeks. When they pulled apart, Ellen was breathless. This complicates everything, she whispered. I know. And Brittany's going to kill us. Probably. And you haven't even seen this yet, Ellen said, her hands trembling a little as she picked up her phone. There's something you need to hear. Ellen held the phone tightly. Andrew, before you make any final decision about canceling the wedding, you need to listen to this. Ellen, my mind's already made up. It doesn't matter what. It does matter. A lot. Just, please listen. She pressed play. Brittany's voice filled the office, clear and incriminating. Yes, everything's ready for the wedding. 3 weeks, and I'll be Mrs. Mitchell. Ridiculous, isn't it? Pretending I care about that idiot. Andrew went pale. Ellen let the recording play. Every word hit like a knife. I already convinced him not to sign the prenup. Told him it was about trust in our love. He bought it completely. Rich men are so predictable. Andrew's fists clenched. The power of attorney papers are ready. As soon as we're married, I'll have access to everything. $5 million is what we can transfer without raising suspicion right away. When the recording ended, the silence in the office was deafening. Andrew stood completely still, processing everything he had just heard. Andrew? Ellen touched his arm gently. Are you okay? He let out a humorless laugh. Okay? I just found out my fiancé was planning to rob me. that the whole relationship was a lie, that she and her cousin were setting me up. So no, Ellen, I'm not okay. I'm so sorry. Don't be, he said, looking at her. You saved me. If you hadn't recorded that, I would have called off the wedding without knowing the truth, and she probably would have found another way to con me later. They've done this before, Ellen said quietly, with a man named Thomas. I heard them mention it. Andrew ran a hand over his face. I need to call my lawyer, right now. Over the next 2 hours, the office turned into a command center. Andrew's lawyer arrived quickly, listened to the recording 3 times, and began taking action. This is enough to press charges, said the lawyer, a serious man named William. Attempted fraud, conspiracy, but first, we need to make sure she doesn't destroy evidence or run. What do you suggest? Andrew asked. Direct confrontation, with witnesses. Record everything. Get her to confess in person. Then we'll have an airtight case. Ellen felt a chill in her stomach. Confrontation? Like, in front of her? Exactly, William said, looking at her. Would you be willing to be part of it? Aye. Ellen looked at Andrew. You don't have to, he said immediately. You've already done more than enough. No, Ellen took a deep breath. I'll do it. She threatened me too, said she'd leak photos of me to ruin my life. William frowned. What photos? Ellen explained about the party, the dancing, and Diego's threats. The lawyer took careful notes. That adds blackmail to the list, he said. Even better for our case. Here's what we'll do. Tomorrow, Andrew will set up a meeting with Brittany. He'll say he wants to talk about the wedding. Ellen will be hidden, recording everything. I'll be nearby too. We'll get her to confess, then reveal that we know everything. Sounds like a crime show episode, Ellen muttered. It basically is, William said with a small smile, but it'll work. That night, Ellen barely slept. She kept replaying every possible thing that could go wrong. Brittany could get suspicious. Diego could show up. Andrew could change his mind. The next morning, she arrived at work earlier than ever. Andrew was already there, looking as exhausted as she felt. Did you sleep? He asked. Maybe 2 hours. You? Less. Mrs. Martha came in with coffee and toast. You two look like you've been hit by a truck. What's going on? Long story, Ellen said. It involves scams, secret recordings, and dramatic confrontations. My goodness, Mrs. Martha sat down. Tell me everything. They did, and with every word, the cook's eyes widened. That snake, she finally burst out. I always knew something was off about her. The way she treated the staff, the way she looked at things like she was calculating their price. You were right, Andrew admitted. I should have listened. Well, now we're going to make that woman pay, Mrs. Martha said with determination. Need me to do anything? Serve her some poisoned tea? Not that I actually would, but I can fantasize. Ellen laughed despite the tension. Just pray this works. At 2 o'clock, Brittany arrived. Andrew had called her that morning, saying they needed to talk urgently about the wedding. Brittany, probably thinking he'd changed his mind about canceling, agreed right away. Ellen was hiding in the storage room next to Andrew's office. Door slightly open, phone recording. William was in another room, using more advanced equipment. Andrew, darling, Ellen heard Brittany's sugary voice. About yesterday, I overreacted. I was nervous about the wedding and had a little meltdown. It was more than that, Andrew said, his tone calm but firm. Brittany, we need to have an honest conversation. Of course. About what? About your real intentions with this wedding. There was a pause. Ellen could imagine Brittany trying to figure out how to play it. I don't understand, Brittany said finally. My intentions are to marry you, to love you, to build a life together. Really? Andrew let out a bitter laugh. Because that's not what you told your cousin Diego yesterday. Silence. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the scam, Brittany, the $5 million you plan to transfer, the power of attorney. Thomas, the man you two already did this to before. You're insane. Who told you those lies? That assistant of yours, wasn't it? She's trying to tear us apart. They're not lies. I have proof. Proof? What proof? Andrew pulled out his phone and played the recording. Ellen could hear Brittany's breathing quicken as her own voice filled the office, confessing everything. When the recording ended, Brittany exploded. Where did you get that? That doesn't matter. What matters is that I have it, and that my lawyer has heard it too. You can't use that. It's illegal to record someone without permission. Actually, William's voice came from the doorway as he entered the office. In Massachusetts, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Ellen, who made the recording, consented. It's perfectly legal. Brittany turned white. You set me up. You set yourself up, Andrew said. The wedding is off, officially. And if you or Diego try anything against me or Ellen, I'll sue you both for fraud, blackmail, and anything else my lawyer can think of. Ellen, Brittany spat the name. Of course, that little witch was recording. Watch your words, Andrew said, his voice dangerously low. You don't talk about her like that. Oh, please, the maid, the dancer? Brittany laughed, but it came out manic. It's about her, isn't it? You're leaving me for a woman who danced half naked at a bachelor party? I'm leaving you for someone honest, brave, real, everything you're not. Brittany looked from Andrew to William, realizing she'd lost. You'll regret this, she whispered. You're not going to do anything, William interrupted. Because if you do, this won't just be a civil case. It'll be criminal. Fraud is a federal offense, Miss Stevens. Diego too, so I suggest you grab your things and leave. Now. Brittany snatched her purse, her hands shaking with rage. You think this is over? It's not. I still have those photos. Everyone's going to see what kind of woman your precious Ellen really is. Go ahead, Ellen said, stepping out of the storage room to face her. I don't care anymore. I did that to help my mother. I'm not ashamed of it, but you should be ashamed of what you tried to do. You're nothing, Brittany hissed. Maybe, but I'm not a con artist, Ellen smiled. Now get out of my way before I throw you out myself. For a moment, it looked like Brittany was about to explode, but then she turned and stormed off, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. When the sound of her heels finally faded down the hall, Ellen's legs gave out. Andrew caught her before she could fall. You were amazing, he murmured. I'm shaking. Me too. William packed up his equipment. I'll prepare all the paperwork. If she or her cousin try anything, we'll be ready. But I think they're more worried about staying out of jail than getting revenge. After the lawyer left, Ellen and Andrew were alone in the office. It's over, she said, still in disbelief. It's really over. It's over, Andrew agreed. Then he smiled. Now we can finally start. Ellen thought the worst was behind them. How wrong she was. 3 days after the confrontation, she woke up to 17 messages from Jess, all in capital letters and full of exclamation points. Never a good sign. She opened the first one and her heart stopped. Ellen, call me now. The second was worse. There's a video of you online. With trembling hands, Ellen opened her browser and searched her name. The video was everywhere, on social media, gossip sites, even a few local news outlets. It was her, dancing at the bachelor party. But it wasn't the full video. It had been edited, cut to look much worse than it really was. And the headline was devastating. Millionaire's assistant caught seducing fiancé at bachelor party. Wedding cancelled after affair turns into scandal. Ellen felt sick. Mom, she called, her voice breaking. Mom, you need to see this. Her mother came into the room. When she saw the video, she went pale. Oh my God, Ellen. Brittany did this. She promised she would, Ellen said, tears spilling. Everyone's gonna see. Everyone's gonna think I... Her phone rang. It was Andrew. Ellen, have you seen it? I have, she could barely speak. I'm coming over. Don't leave the house. Don't talk to anyone. 20 minutes later, Andrew was at the door of Ellen's tiny apartment. It was the first time he'd seen where she lived. Ellen felt a wave of embarrassment over the small living room, the worn couch, the faded walls. But Andrew didn't seem to notice any of it. He just pulled her into a hug. We're gonna fix this, he said firmly. How? The video's everywhere. My mom saw it. Everyone will. Ellen sobbed. They're saying I seduced you, that I ruined your wedding, that I'm a... Don't say it, Andrew said, holding her face in his hands. It's not true. None of it. But everyone believes it. Look at the comments, Andrew. People hate me. It was true. The comments were cruel. They called Ellen every horrible name imaginable. Gold digger, homewrecker, shameless. Ellen's mother brought her a glass of water. Her hands were shaking too. Mr. Mitchell, she said softly, my daughter didn't do anything wrong. That dance was a job. She needed the money for my treatment. Please, don't let them destroy her for it. I won't, Andrew promised. I already called William. He's preparing a statement. We're going to expose Brittany for everything she's done. The scam, the blackmail, all of it. But will it help? Ellen asked. People already decided I'm guilty. It doesn't matter what you say. It does, he said, pulling out his phone. I'm going to make an official statement right now. I'll tell the whole truth. For the next few hours, Andrew worked with William to draft a full declaration. Ellen stayed home, trying not to look at social media. And failing. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists asking for interviews. Unknown numbers. Ellen turned it off. That afternoon, her mother suddenly felt sick. "Mom!" Ellen ran to the couch where she was sitting, pale and sweating. "What happened?" "Just a little dizziness, dear. It's the stress. We're going to the hospital." "You don't have to." "Yes, we do. Now." Ellen called Andrew and he arrived in 15 minutes. They took her mother to the nearest hospital. The doctors examined her and said it was stress, but that she needed rest. Ellen sat in the waiting room feeling like her world was falling apart. Brittany had kept her promise. She had destroyed her reputation. And now her mother was in the hospital because of all the stress. "I ruined everything," she whispered to Andrew. "If I hadn't taken that job at the party—" "You saved your mother," Andrew interrupted gently. "You did what you had to do. There's no shame in that. But now everyone thinks I know what you are," he said, taking her hand. "Brave, honest, strong, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows that too." That night, Andrew called a press conference. Ellen watched from home, her mother already discharged and resting on the couch. Andrew looked calm, composed, and completely in control. "Good evening. I called this press conference to clarify the facts about the video that circulated today involving my assistant, Ellen Barker," he began. "First, I want to make it clear that the cancellation of my wedding to Brittany Stevens had nothing to do with Ellen. I canceled it because I discovered Brittany was planning a financial scam against me." Murmurs spread through the crowd of reporters. Andrew continued, "I have proof that Brittany and her cousin Diego planned to marry me, obtain power of attorney, and transfer millions from my accounts. They've done this before to another man. When Ellen accidentally discovered their plan, they threatened her with the video that was leaked today." He paused for a moment. As for the video itself, Ellen was working that night. She accepted a dancing job because she urgently needed money to pay for her mother's medical treatment. There is nothing wrong or immoral about that. She was working honestly to help her family. Andrew looked straight into the camera. "Ellen Barker did not ruin my wedding. She saved me from a scam that could have cost me millions in years of pain. She is the most honorable person I know, and anyone who tries to defame her will have to deal with me and my lawyers." He took a deep breath. "Also, I want to make it clear to everyone that Ellen is not just my assistant. She's the woman I love, and I intend to marry her as soon as she accepts my proposal." Ellen nearly dropped her glass of water. Her mother began. "Proposed," Ellen finished, stunned. "On television, in front of everyone." Her phone started buzzing non-stop. Messages from Jess, from Mrs. Martha, from college friends she hadn't heard from in years. But Ellen couldn't look away from the screen where Andrew was calmly answering reporters' questions, defending her like a knight in a tailored suit. "Are you going to say yes?" her mother asked softly. "Mom, he only said that to protect me, to change the narrative." "Ellen Marie Barker," her mother said firmly. "That man loves you. Anyone can see it. The question is, do you love him?" Ellen thought of all the times Andrew had looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. How he'd paid her bills without asking for anything in return. How he'd believed her when no one else would. "Yes," she whispered. "I love him." "Then when he gets here, which he will, the moment he's done with that press conference, you're going to say yes." And her mother was right. 40 minutes later, Andrew knocked on the door. Ellen opened it. He was out of breath, like he had run all the way there. "I know I did that completely wrong," he began. "I should have asked you in private, with flowers, a ring, and—" "Yes," Ellen interrupted. He blinked. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you," she said, smiling through her tears. "But you're terrible at planning proposals." Andrew laughed, relief flooding his face, and pulled her into a kiss. From the living room, they heard her mother yell, "Finally! I thought I was going to have to ask for you too." In the days that followed, everything changed. The media began investigating Brittany and Diego. They uncovered the previous scam involving Thomas, who came forward to tell his story. Public opinion completely shifted in Ellen's favor. People who had once judged her were now calling her a hero, the brave woman who saved a good man from a con artist. Ellen thought it was all a bit too much, but at least she wasn't being called horrible names anymore. Brittany and Diego disappeared, likely to avoid criminal charges. William said he would still pursue them legally, but for now, they were out of the picture. A week later, Ellen was in the office when Andrew walked in carrying a small velvet box. "You already said yes to marrying me," he said, "but I still owe you a proper ring." He opened the box. It was a simple, elegant ring, perfect. Andrew, it's beautiful. It's not overly fancy on purpose, he said, slipping it on her finger. Because you're not fancy, you're real, and you're perfect. Ellen looked at the ring, then at him, and felt her heart overflow. When are we getting married? She asked. Whenever you want. How about 3 months? Enough time to plan something small and intimate. Perfect, he smiled. Small and intimate, with Mrs. Martha making the cake. And Jess is my maid of honor. And your mom in the front row, probably crying. Definitely crying. They laughed, and Ellen realized that for the first time in months, she felt completely happy. The nightmare was over, and the fairy tale was just beginning. The next 3 months went by like a dream. Ellen kept working as Andrew's administrative assistant, but now with the ring sparkling on her finger and without having to hide the smiles they shared in the office. Mrs. Martha loved catching them kissing in the library and teasing them about their lack of professionalism. You two are worse than teenagers, she'd say, shaking her head but smiling. I'm 32. Ellen protested. And you act 15 whenever he's around. It was true. Ellen couldn't help it. For the first time in her life, she felt completely, genuinely happy. Her mother's health improved a lot. The doctor said the treatment was working better than expected. She had more energy, was gaining weight, and spent her days helping Ellen plan the wedding. Do you want white or colorful flowers? Her mom asked, surrounded by wedding magazines. Mom, I already told you. I just want something simple. Simple doesn't mean without flowers, Ellen. Now pick, white or colorful. Colorful, Ellen sighed in defeat, but nothing too extravagant. Of course, we're not starting a traveling flower shop, just something cheerful and beautiful. Jess was thrilled to be the maid of honor. She dragged Ellen to 5 different stores before they found the perfect dress. I'm not wearing anything too expensive, Ellen warned as they entered the first store. Ellen, you're marrying a millionaire. You can splurge a little. Exactly why I don't need to spend much. I don't want people thinking I'm marrying him for money. No one thinks that. Everyone knows you literally saved him from being scammed. Still, I want something simple. They found the perfect dress in the 3rd store. It was white, elegant, with delicate lace but no excess. Ellen looked at herself in the mirror and felt tears in her eyes. This is the one, she whispered. This is the one, Jess agreed, also crying. My God, you look stunning. I'm not even wearing makeup yet. Doesn't matter, you're glowing. Andrew's going to faint when he sees you. The wedding was set for a Saturday in May, in the garden of the Mitchell estate. Ellen had originally wanted something even smaller, but Andrew insisted. It's my house, he argued, and the garden is perfect. Besides, Mrs. Martha already planned the entire menu. She planned it? I thought that was our job. Technically it is, but try telling her that. Ellen went to the kitchen and found Mrs. Martha scribbling notes in a huge notebook. Mrs. Martha, what are you doing? Planning your wedding, dear. I was thinking of making that 3-tier cake with cream cheese frosting. You like cream cheese, don't you? I do, but... Perfect. And for appetizers, I'm thinking mini cheese and spinach quiches, light but flavorful. Mrs. Martha? And for the main course, chicken medallions with champagne sauce and roasted potatoes. Unless you prefer fish, I can do grilled salmon too. Mrs. Martha? Ellen finally managed to interrupt. You don't have to do all this. The cook stopped and looked at her, eyes brimming with tears. Dear, I've worked in this house for 15 years. I've watched Mr. Mitchell grow up, take over his father's business, go through empty relationships. I've never seen him truly happy, not until you. Ellen felt a lump in her throat. Let me do this, Mrs. Martha continued. Let me prepare the wedding for the only person who finally made him smile for real. All right, Ellen said, hugging her. But no ice sculptures shaped like swans. How boring. I was going to make a beautiful swan. Mrs. Martha. Fine, no swans. The week of the wedding, Ellen was a bundle of nerves. She couldn't sleep, barely ate, and checked every detail obsessively. You need to relax, Andrew said on Thursday night. Everything's ready. What if it rains? We have the backup tent. What if the cake collapses? Mrs. Martha's a perfectionist. The cake will be perfect. What if I trip walking down the aisle? Then I'll catch you, he smiled. Ellen, stop worrying. Everything will be fine. How can you be so sure? Because what matters is that by the end of the day, we'll be married. Everything else is just details. On Friday night, Ellen stayed at her mother's house, keeping the tradition of not seeing the groom before the wedding. She spent the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, She had been a desperate housekeeper. She had agreed to dance at a party for money, humiliated but determined to save her mother. And now she was about to marry the man who had seen her at her most vulnerable moment and, instead of judging her, had chosen to help her. On Saturday morning, she woke up to Jess banging on the door. "Wake up, bride. It's wedding day." Ellen opened the door, her hair messy, still in pajamas. "What time is it?" 6 a.m. We've got a lot to do. The wedding's not until 4 in the afternoon. Exactly. 10 hours to make you perfect. That's barely enough time. The next few hours were a blur of hair, makeup, nails, and finally the dress. When Ellen finally looked in the mirror, fully ready, she barely recognized herself. "Wow," her mother whispered from the doorway. "My girl looks beautiful." Ellen turned around, tears threatening to ruin her makeup. "Mom, don't make me cry now." "I'm so proud of you," her mother said, hugging her gently, careful not to wrinkle the dress. "You deserve all this happiness." "You do too, Mom. If it worked for you, I would have given up 1,000 times." "Nonsense. You never give up on anything. You're the strongest woman I know." At 3:30, Ellen was ready. The car took her to the Mitchell estate, where the garden had been transformed into a fairy tale setting. Colorful flowers everywhere, white chairs perfectly aligned, a path of petals leading to a small altar beneath a huge tree. There were about 50 guests. Andrew's friends, a few co-workers, Ellen's family, and of course Mrs. Martha sitting in the front row next to Ellen's mother, both already crying before it even began. The music started to play. Ellen took a deep breath, held the arm of an old family friend who had kindly agreed to walk her down the aisle, and began to walk. Andrew was there at the end of the path, wearing a perfect black suit. And when he saw her, his whole face lit up. Ellen almost tripped. Not from nerves, but because she couldn't stop looking at him. When she finally reached the altar, Andrew took her hands. "You look stunning," he whispered. "So do you," she whispered back. "But if I fall, you promised you'd catch me." "Always." The officiant began the ceremony. Ellen barely heard the words. She was too focused on Andrew, on how his green eyes never left her, on how he held her hands like he'd never let go. When it was time for the vows, Andrew went first. "Ellen, 6 months ago, I saw you for the first time. Really saw you. Not as my employee, not as someone invisible in my house, but as the brave, incredible woman you are. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that asking for help isn't shameful, and that real love isn't about perfection. It's about accepting and admiring someone exactly as they are." He took a breath. "I promise to love you on the easy days and the hard ones. I promise to support everything you dream of doing. I promise to never let you feel invisible again. And I promise, every single day, to remind you just how extraordinary you are." Ellen was openly crying now. She tried to wipe her tears, but they kept falling. "Your turn," Andrew smiled, tears in his own eyes. Ellen took a deep breath. "Andrew, you saw me at my lowest moment, dancing at a party, desperate and ashamed. And instead of judging me, you chose to help me, not because you expected anything in return, but because you're the kind of man who sees someone in need and can't just walk away." She squeezed his hands. "You gave me more than money or a better job. You gave me hope. You gave me dignity. You gave me love when I didn't even know I deserved to be loved. I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you how much that means to me. I promise to make you laugh every day, even when you're stressed about work. And I promise to never let you forget how special you are. I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said with a smile. "You may kiss the bride." Andrew didn't need to be told twice. He pulled Ellen into a kiss that made the guests cheer and whistle. When they finally pulled apart, they were both laughing and crying at the same time. The reception was perfect. The food was delicious, the cake didn't collapse, and no one tripped. Mrs. Martha got more compliments than the newlyweds for the dinner and looked absolutely delighted. During the first dance, Andrew pulled Ellen closer. "Happy?" he asked. "Very," she smiled, "though I still can't believe this is real." "It's real, and it's just the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "Everything. Our life together. Our story." "Our story started months ago," Ellen said, in the worst possible way. "But look where we are now," Andrew twirled her. "From shame to love, from despair to hope. You've always been good with words, and you've always been good at reminding me what really matters." Later, while they were cutting the cake, Jess shouted from the crowd, "Remember when you said you'd never find anyone? Look at you now." Ellen laughed. "Thanks for reminding me of my dramatic phase." "You're welcome. That's what best friends are for." When the night ended and the guests started leaving, Ellen and Andrew stayed in the garden, still glowing with the warm string lights. "So, Mrs. Mitchell," Andrew said, "how does it feel to be a married woman?" "Strangely normal," Ellen admitted. "I thought it would feel different, but I feel, like myself, just happier." "That's exactly how it should be." They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, looking out at the garden where everything had begun months before. Ellen thought of everything she had been through, the humiliation at the party, the fear of being exposed, the courage to record Brittany, the terror when the video leaked, and finally the love she had found in the most unexpected place. "Andrew," she said softly. "Huh? Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For really seeing me when no one else did." He kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for saving me from a life of pretending to be happy." "Then we're even. We're even." And there, under the stars, with the ring shining on her finger and her heart full of hope, Ellen knew she had finally found her place in the world. Not as a maid, not as an assistant, not as the woman who stepped out of a cake, but as Ellen Mitchell, the loved woman, the strong woman, the woman who turned one of the worst moments of her life into the beginning of the greatest love story she could ever imagine. What did you think of Ellen and Andrew's story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications to follow all our stories, and check out more emotional stories by clicking here on the end screen.